So let's start. Let's start with paper 2, stereochemistry. First is content. What is the content in our syllabus? First topic is Fisher projection, Newman and Sauer projection formula of stereoisomers. Here we are going to study structures of stereoisomers in 3 different ways. Number 2 is geometrical isomerism in alkene and cycloalkanes. Cis trans and syn anti isomerism is a notation with CIP rules. So this is our second topic which we going to cover. Then we have optical isomerism. In optical isomerism, we have optical activity, specific rotation, chirality asymmetry, enantiomers, molecules with two similar and dissimilar chiral centers, diastereomers, meso structures, racemic mixture, and then resolution. Then we have relative and absolute configuration. Here we are going to study nomenclature of stereoisomers, DL nomenclature and RS nomenclature. And last one is conformation analysis of ethane, propane and N-butane. Here we are going to study conformation analysis of these 3 compounds with their relative stability and energy diagrams. So यहाँ पे जो फर्स्ट टॉपिक है फिशर प्रोजेक्शन, न्यूमन प्रोजेक्शन एंड सॉहर प्रोजेक्शन फॉर्मूला, वो मैं आपको जूम लेक्चर के थ्रू नहीं पढ़ाने वाला, मैं आपको उसके वीडियोस प्रोवाइड करूंगा, स्मॉल वीडियोस, 3 अलग अलग वीडियोस आपको मिल जाएंगे एंड यू हैव टू स्टडी दैट. उसके ऊपर मैं आपको ये भी बता दूंगा कि कौन से टाइप्स के क्वेश्चन आ सकते हैं. Now student, we start with our topic and that topic is geometrical isomerism. Now what is geometrical isomerism? First I read the definition. Compounds having the same structure but different spatial arrangement of groups around carbon-carbon double bond, and because of molecular symmetry, these compounds do not rotate the plane polarized light. So in very simple language, geometrical isomers are those stereoisomers which are arise due to carbon-carbon double bond, and due to their symmetry, they do not rotate plane polarized light. In short, they are optically inactive. So what is the example of this cis and trans isomerism? Cis and trans isomerism and syn and anti isomerism. Let's study the examples. First one is cis and trans isomerism in alkenes. First of all, what is cis isomer? The isomer having similar group on the same side of double bond are called cis isomers. The isomers having the similar groups on the opposite side of the double bond is called trans isomers. Example is cis 2-butene and trans 2-butene. Now students, this is cis 2-butene. Now why it is cis 2-butene? Because similar groups, methyl group and this is second methyl group on second carbon atom are on the same side of double bond, and hydrogen, these 2 hydrogens are on the same side of the double bond. This is called cis isomerism. Now what is trans isomerism? So as you can see here, this is the methyl group and this methyl group are on the different side of the double bond. and this hydrogen also are on the different side or opposite side of the double bond. So that's why this is called trans. So student, this is the example of cis 2-butene and trans 2-butene. These are stereoisomers called geometrical isomers. Now another example of this is now, as you can see here, these two chlorine atoms are on the opposite side, and that's why this is called trans. Here, chlorine groups are on the same side of double bond. That's why it is called cis. So, students, this is the example of cis and trans isomerism in alkenes. Now, student, next one is cis and trans isomerism in cycloalkanes. Now, what do you mean by cycloalkanes? Cycloalkanes means cyclic compound which do not have any type of double bond. So in this case also we going to study cis and trans isomerism. So cis and trans isomerism is also exhibited by cyclic compounds. The ring takes the place of rigid double bond and they restrict the rotation of carbon atoms about their axis. So instead of double bond, here we have a ring, and around that ring there is a different arrangement of atoms or groups. What is the example of this? Example is cis 1,3 cyclobutane dicarboxylic acid and trans 1,3 cyclobutane dicarboxylic acid. I will draw their structures. So first of all, it is a cyclobutane, and we draw cyclobutane like this. Now this carbon atom contain two groups, and this carbon atom also contain two groups. So here COOH and here COOH. Now as you can see here, COOH group is or on the same side of the plane. Okay, they are on the same side. That's why this compound is called cis. Another example, COH and COH here. Okay, what you can observe here, your observation is COH and COH, they are on the opposite side of this plane, and that's why this is called trans. So student, this is the concept of cis and trans isomerism in cycloalkanes. As you can see here also, here cis 1,3 cyclobutane dicarboxylic acid, COH, COH are on the same side. Trans 1,3 cyclobutane dicarboxylic acid, COH and COH, they are on the opposite side. Here also another example is cis and trans. In cis 1,2 dimethyl cyclohexane, these two methyl groups are on the same side, and here these two methyl groups are on the opposite side. So this is the cis and trans isomerism in cycloalkane. Now next thing is about cis and anti-isomerism. Now student, this cis and anti-isomerism is also come under geometrical isomerism. So geometrical isomerism is also shown by 1 minute. Okay, here I'm going to read this. Listen one by one. We go point by point. Geometrical isomerism is shown by oximes in which there is a double bond between carbon and nitrogen. So, which compound contain carbon nitrogen double bond? Many examples are there. Okay, but here we're going to study aldoxymes. Now, aldoxymes, the isomer in which hydrogen and hydroxyl groups are on the same side of the double bond is known as syn isomer. And the isomer in which hydrogen and hydroxyl group are on the opposite side is called anti-isomer. Example is syn benzaldoxime and trans benzaldoxime. Sorry, this is a printing mistake. Syn benzaldoxime and anti benzaldoxime. Okay, student, read this trans as anti. Now see, this is the example, syn benzaldoxime and anti benzaldoxime. Okay, I will draw these two structures so that you can understand easily.
Hello.
So oxime, students, oxime means compound having carbon nitrogen double bond with OH group. This is called oxime. Now when these oximes are prepared from aldehyde, it is called aldoxime. Now this aldoxime gives you syn and anti-isomerism. Now students, in this case, OH group and hydrogen are on the same side. That's why this is called syn benzaldoxime. Now here OH and H are on the opposite side. That's why this is called anti. So student, this is similar as cis and trans. And that's why this isomerism also come under geometrical isomerism. As you can see here also, syn benzaldoxime, H and OH are on the same side. Anti-benzaldoxime, OH and H, they are on the opposite side. Now students, our next concept is about optical isomerism. Now what are the contents of this optical isomerism? First one is optical activity, then we have specific rotation, then we have chirality or asymmetry, enantiomers, then molecules with two similar and dissimilar chiral centers, diastereomers, mesostructures, racemic mixture, and then we have a resolution. Now most of the concept we already studied in our previous lectures, जहाँ पे मैं आपको कुछ बेसिक कंसेप्ट पढ़ा रहा था, वहां पे हमने पढ़े, बट again we have to repeat all these things. So first of all, what is optical isomerism? Optical isomerism is nothing but stereoisomerism, in which the isomers have different special arrangement of groups or atoms around the chiral carbon is called optical isomerism. So first of all, what is chiral carbon? Chiral carbon is nothing but a carbon which is attached with 4 different atoms and groups. Now, these optical isomers are differ in terms of measurable property called optical activity. So to understand optical isomerism, we first understand what is optical activity. Now, to understand optical activity, we first going to study what is plane polarized light. So plane polarized light is nothing but light which is travel in a single plane. And how this happen? When ordinary light is passes through the nickel prism, okay, then that light travel only in one direction or only in one plane, and it is called plane polarized light. स्टूडेंट, जैसे आपको पता है कि ऑर्डिनरी लाइट मतलब ट्यूबलाइट हो या सनलाइट हो, इट इज ट्रैवल इन अ डिफरेंट प्लेन्स, पर उसी लाइट को जब हम निकोल प्रिज्म से पास करते हैं, ओके, देन दैट लाइट पासेस थ्रू इन ओनली वन प्लेन, एंड दैट लाइट is called plane polarized light. Now when this plane polarized light is passes through, as you can see here, this is light source, this is ordinary light, and when this ordinary light passes through this polarizer, we get plane polarized light. Now student, when this plane polarized light we passes through the sample tube, सैंपल ट्यूब में क्या होता है? सैंपल ट्यूब में सॉल्यूशन होता है कंपाउंड का, एंड व्हेन दिस लाइट passes through this, and what we have observed, our observation is this light is rotated. This light is rotated. If the light is rotated, then it is called optically active compound. Let's study this in very simple way. So first of all, I have a plane polarized light. How we get this? When ordinary light passes through nickel prism, we call this as PPL, plane polarized light. Now students, when this plane polarized light passes through solution of compound, मतलब जो कंपाउंड का ऑप्टिकल एक्टिविटी चेक करना है उसी कंपाउंड का हम सॉल्यूशन बनाएंगे. इट मे बी प्रिपेयर्ड इन वाटर और एनी अदर सॉल्वेंट. एंड व्हाट आई हैव ऑब्जर्व, आवर ऑब्जर्वेशन इज that plane polarized light is rotated, and when this plane polarized light is rotated, okay, then we can say that this compound, जिस कंपाउंड से लाइट पास हो गई है प्लेन पोलराइज्ड लाइट, दैट कंपाउंड इज ऑप्टिकली एक्टिव. What is the example of such compounds? Such compound may be glucose. Now another thing, when plane polarized light passes through the solution of compound, and what is our observation? Plane polarized light do not rotate. वो रोटेट ही नहीं हो रही है, वो वैसे की वैसे ही दिखाई दे रहा है. सो व्हाट इज आवर ऑब्जर्वेशन इज दैट पर्टिकुलर कंपाउंड, जिस कंपाउंड से प्लेन पोलराइज्ड लाइट पास हो गई है, दैट कंपाउंड इज ऑप्टिकली इनएक्टिव. That compound is optically inactive. So student, this is the concept of optical activity and optical inactivity of compounds. So this is the most important concept of optical activity.